I want to get back to the Victorian pandemic situation and in particular the infections across aged care centres. I'm joined from Adelaide by Ian Henschke from the National Seniors Australia group. Good to talk to you again, Ian. This is really worrying. It's been obvious from the outset that aged care centres needed to be very, very carefully protected. We had the Newmarch House problems with a lot of lives lost in New South Wales. Victoria doesn't seem to have sealed off aged care homes appropriately. We need to be confident everybody's doing this in every state.
Well, one of the problems, Chris, is that people can not have symptoms and still spread the disease. So unless you test people prior without symptoms, you're going to have this problem. And we've seen overseas that aged care homes have been places where 40, 50, 60% of people who get infected don't survive. So it is absolutely crucial that we address this. But as I said, it's extremely difficult. If someone's asymptomatic and they turn up for work, you don't know.
What's the answer, though? I mean, I know a lot of aged care facilities were shut down in what we'd call the first wave. I know from some of my family's own experience, people just didn't have visitors for a while. Oughtn't we not treat everybody who's in an aged care facility, everyone coming and going, as if they are infected, and therefore obviously have no touching? People, if they're going to have visits, they can sit apart outdoors if possible, that sort of thing?
Well, it's essential that you limit the amount of contact you have. But as I mentioned before, if you're an aged care worker working in an aged care home and you actually have to help people, you have to wash them, you've got to help them with feeding. You know, you're going to be within that 1.5 metres. So it's almost as if it comes with the territory. And in fact, you know, some experts have said that aged care homes are in fact cruise ships on the land, just because of the nature of the fact that you've got more than 100 people often. In some cases in America and Canada, they've had 200 people in an aged care home. So you can see that these are, this is an argument now, and this is what National Seniors is saying, for much, much, much more to be done to keep people in their own homes. And this is why it's absolutely critical that we recognise that Australia does not have a good record because out of all the OECD countries, we have the second highest rate of residential care. So we can be doing things differently. This is a call now that's coming from advocacy groups like ourselves, also through the Royal Commission, to make sure that there are enough home care packages so that people who want to stay in their home can stay there and they're not going unnecessarily into aged care.
This is important, and we'll have you back on to talk about some of those ideas in the future, because that is important for all sorts of reasons as well as the pandemic. But just finally and quickly on the pandemic, the idea of workers going from one aged care facility to another is surely something that should be cut off, especially when you're talking about the possibility of asymptomatic transmission.
Well, it's one of the problems that we've got. We've got a society where we pay people on a casual basis often to work, and the only way that they can support their families or themselves is to actually have maybe a shift at one place and a shift at another place just to make up the work. So
it just increases the risk. It's a real problem. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Sorry to cut you off, Ian.
No worries, no worries.
We'll come back to you again. Yeah,
Thanks again.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's Ian Henschke with National Seniors Australia.